sure some will join. I'm sure some other parents will join us as we get started. But first and foremost, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are really pleased to be able to present this, this small professional development or parent education night for you tonight. As we know that this is a rather critical time in your little one's life, and eligibility for the Step Up Scholarship is on the forefront of a lot of our minds. So we are really pleased that we can hopefully give you a really Cliff Note version of what things look like and how we can really simplify this scholarship process for you in working with McKibben and Monte. I am Cindy McKibben, and I also have Sara Guster with us. I am one of the co-founders of McKibben and Monte and also a speech pathologist myself. And Sara Guster wears a lot of hats in our company, but the one that she's representing tonight is really this Director of Special Programs, which in your world is the Step Up Unique Abilities Scholarship. Tonight, we really have a few objectives and just sort of a program overview of what to expect tonight. First and foremost, we want to really help you understand who McKibben and Monte is and how we work with the scholarship. Secondly, we want hopefully give you a better understanding of the eligibility for the scholarship and clarify that for you. Next, we really would like to go over the application deadlines and details. And last, we really just want to make sure you have the resources that you need to gather more information, to contact us, and to contact Step Up as you need to through the process. So who is McKibben and Monte? McKibben and Monte is actually a comprehensive early intervention pediatric company. We really take pride in our model and really creating a very personal approach to therapy. There are a lot of companies out there that provide therapy, as you all probably well know, but really what makes us different are a number of factors. First and foremost, we really feel that we take quite a lot of pride in our therapists. We have very high caliber therapists that have worked with children for years and have a passion for working with young children. In addition to that, we really recognize the importance of your family time. And that is why our services are embedded into your child's preschool or daycare day. We want to ensure that when your workday is done or your day in general is done, that you can go home and spend time with with your family, and you do not need to run your child to speech or occupational therapy if that is needed. In addition to that, it is very important to us, and one of the really pillars of our company is the communication component and the collaboration with not only you, but also with your child's teacher and with your child's school. We really take this to all extents in that not only do we have weekly communication, which is very unique to a therapy company, we provide you with weekly communication and progress notes in our parent portal, suggestions on what we would like and how we would encourage you to carry over what we're doing in therapy into your daily life. But in addition to that, we also send all of our families either a picture or video of the therapy session so that you really feel and understand what is going on in that therapy session and how we are really facilitating, whether that's communication, fine motor skills, social emotional regulation, whatever your child's goals might be, that you can see what's actually happening in that therapy session, even though you are not there. And third, by collaborating with your schools, we also are ensuring you that not only do you have access to us, but you have immediate access. There are extremely long wait lists throughout all the cities that we're in throughout Florida, and upwards of 6 months to access speech or occupational therapy. But by McKibben and Monte collaborating with your child's school, we will evaluate your child immediately and then ensure that we can also jump right into therapy following that. There are a lot of companies out there that I know evaluate children, but then they put their child after that evaluation on a wait list so that child is really missing out on some really important time in their life to really start that intervention process. I'd also like to mention at this point, We are evaluating, once our speech and occupational therapists evaluate your child, we are making recommendations as to what we think those next steps should look like. We follow up with all of our families with a telephone consult following the evaluation, which really gives you a nice opportunity to ask questions and better understand what your child's age, what we are expecting from both a speech and occupational therapy standpoint. We are going to soon jump into the concept and the eligibility of the Step Up Scholarship, but following that evaluation, it is important for you to understand that those recommendations we are making, we really suggest that you act on. The reason that we are early intervention specialists and really embrace this period is that we want to make sure that your child has a foundation in place to really thrive in kindergarten. And we really see this runway between that age of 18 months and 5 years, if there are any gaps in your child's development, as this is a really instrumental time for us to start addressing those. And I'm saying that only because once we evaluate, those recommendations we're suggesting that families jump into therapy right away. We understand that sometimes finances are an issue, and so parents might have a tendency to say, gosh, let me wait until that Step Up Scholarship, until I get through that process and find out if they're eligible to start therapy. My concern and our concern with that we've run into is a couple of things. First, we're missing out on some pretty instrumental time that we can start working with your child. Secondly, it is important to know that, we, at the moment that we evaluate, we can begin seeing your child, but we can't assure you that if we wait 6 months or 4 months down the road, that we also will have that availability. Our therapist availability does begin to dwindle as the spring and particularly into the summer, when those Step Up Scholarship dollars might become available to you. So it is really imperative, and we really encourage you to get started with therapy, perhaps not as frequently or for the durations that we would really recommend, but at least to get started so that we can start providing you all with some feedback and some suggestions at home, and work with them one-on-one, even if it's 30 minutes a week. Just a little bit more about what McKibben and Monte addresses. From a speech therapy standpoint, these are a lot of terms that you'll hear following our evaluations, but we work with children with apraxia, articulation disorders, or speech sound disorders, how a child is formulating their sounds. We work with children with autism-related speech disorders, expressive receptive language delays, learning disabilities, phonological awareness, phonological disorders, selective mutism, and stuttering. In addition, our occupational therapist, what's under that wheelhouse, looks a little bit different and is a little bit less known. It is quite a large wheelhouse as well. An occupational therapist not only works with academic skills, but they work with behavioral concerns. They also work with body awareness, feeding and picky eating, fine motor skills, handwriting, self-help skills, social emotional regulation, social pragmatics. And in general, I think the best way of thinking about what OT does is they address any skills that have an impact on a child's daily living activities. So everything that a child does on their day-to-day basis, that are related to fine motor and sometimes even gross motor skills, but cognitive skills, behavior, ability to attend to tasks or circle time, all of those, that is under the wheelhouse of an occupational therapist and a child's occupations. In addition to working with children one-on-one, in person, we also offer virtual programs. So in a community where you all have access to all different types of therapy companies, the question might be, why do we choose McKibben and Monte? One of the reasons is really that the experience that our providers bring to the table, and that customized approach that we provide to therapy, which is very different from other therapy companies. We work very closely with the teachers at your child's school, with the directors, and with you to make sure that we are all doing things the same way. So we have that carryover to all of the environments that a child will be in. And again, we work in a place where a child is comfortable. So that school is really important to us because we can really see that child interacting in their natural environment. In addition, our therapists really have their knowledge base and experience really surpasses a lot of other therapy companies. And the resources that we provide, not only from an OT and speech perspective, but honestly, from a parent education standpoint, is really important to understand. We provide parent education events every month or two like this on various topics. Most recently, we've done one on picky eating. We've provided one on, we have one coming up on bedtime routines and frustrations and how to work through that. So various topics that really pertain to parents, we provide those virtually on about every other month. In addition to that, we have been involved with the Step Up Scholarship, or the Step Up Unique Abilities portion of that scholarship since the scholarship began. Sara Guster, who is on the call with me and will be talking later, she is an expert as far as an expert can be. Things change all the time with the scholarship, but she keeps up with that and really helps to facilitate this process for you all. That is her number one job for McKibben and Monte as it relates to the scholarship. In addition to that, we actually are a direct invoicing model. A lot of the therapy companies out there are in fact step-up providers, but there are two different ways of being a step-up provider. One is a reimbursement model, which requires families to pay out of pocket and then go through a reimbursement, several steps to get reimbursement, which can take an upwards of at least 3 months to get that money back. Or you can take our approach, which is unusual, but also is one that we really feel strongly about, and that is the direct invoicing model. This model, which you'll learn more about, but this model allows us to build a step-up scholarship once the scholarship dollars have been put into every family's account. We can build that step-up scholarship directly, which really eliminates a lot of the work on a parent's part and the paperwork that is necessary in order to get that money back following paying for therapy. This slide you'll see now, and you'll also see the end of the presentation. This is really just all of the resources that, and it might be worthwhile taking a picture of the screen, but the resources when you want to gather more information or have questions about the Step Up Unique Abilities Scholarship. In addition, any questions that pertain to McKibben and Monte, you can contact us at the website below, which is info@mckibbenandmonte.com. So what is the Step Up Unique Abilities Scholarship? So it is the Family Empowerment Scholarship for students with unique abilities is what we are going to talk about tonight. There are actually two wings of the Step Up Scholarship. Unique abilities simply pertains to funds that families can access if a child meets the criteria or one of about 26 different diagnoses, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Excuse me, it functions like an education savings account. The funds can be used for a combination of programs and approved expenses, which also include speech and occupational therapy. There is you can read all about it, so much more than what we'll go into depth tonight at the parent handbook that is available online. So let's talk a little bit about what the eligibility looks like for this unique abilities portion of the Step Up Scholarship. The criteria for it is that a child must be at least the age of 3 and can use it all the way up until 12th grade. As I mentioned before, a child must have a specific diagnosis, which can range from a speech impairment to autism spectrum disorders. A child cannot attend a public school. In addition, the child must be a Florida resident or an active duty military that is specific to Florida. And the unique abilities is not based on socioeconomic need. Let's talk a little bit more about these diagnoses. And on the screen or on the slide, you will see that there are some that have been colored green. And those are the diagnoses that we typically work with. There are several others, and some of these might pertain to your child, but the diagnoses after a speech or an occupational therapy assessment that really help to make a child eligible, from our perspective, are the autism spectrum disorder, emotional or behavioral disability, and that is something that an occupational therapy assessment would help to determine. A child that is high risk, a child with dual sensory impairments, speech or language impairment. And that is something, the speech and language impairment is something that a speech and language evaluation would suggest as well. So following that evaluation, those are some of the diagnoses that we use that help to make a child eligible for the Step Up Unique Ability Scholarship. Now I am going to turn it over to Sara to help you understand a little bit more about that process. So once an evaluation has taken place, either through McKibben and Monte or through another company, and or a child has an IEP, you will then take that step, you will take the following steps that we're going to talk about to apply for the scholarship. Sara?
Sure. Thank you, Cindy. Good evening, everyone. So the application process begins at the Step Up for Students website, and it's relatively simple. You just need to provide proof of age and residency of your child. And then your child either needs to have a current documented IEP or a validated diagnosis from a licensed medical professional. So let's get into that a little bit. Your child must either have a current individualized education plan or the diagnosis from a licensed medical professional that falls in one of the three following categories. The professional could be a Florida licensed physician or a physician licensed by another U.S. state or territory, or an advanced practice registered nurse or psychologist licensed in the state of Florida. So if your child has an IEP or a documented diagnosis already, then that is proof enough of the diagnosis and you are done with that part of the application. If your child does not have an IEP, you can complete an occupational therapy or speech therapy assessment with a McKibben and Monte professional therapist. If the assessment suggests your child is eligible for the scholarship, then a letter from a provider must support this diagnosis. So one avenue you can follow is to ask your McKibben and Monte therapist to share an informational letter about Step Up with you. Our therapists are ready to provide this letter along with the assessment results, and you can then take these items to your provider to obtain that supporting diagnosis letter. Or the second avenue you can follow is to utilize our collaborating physician. For minimal fees, she will work with you and your therapist and the results of your child's assessment to write a supporting letter that can be submitted for the scholarship application. I do want to note that once your child has a qualifying diagnosis, this diagnosis can be used each year for resubmission. You do not have to seek that diagnosis out again, and you can use the same documentation. Just save that. Please be aware of application deadlines. The application window opened February 1st, and students who currently hold a scholarship and are renewing are offered priority for processing and funding until April 30th. After that, their applications are considered to be new applications, and all applications are due November 15th. Just as an aside, Cindy and I were on a call with Step Up in the second week of February, just 1 week after applications had opened. And at that point, Step Up had already received 4 times the number of applications that they received last year. And there is a limit to how much funding is available based upon the state budget. So we encourage families to apply sooner rather than later as funds can run out. Sorry, I'm missing a page here. There we go. Also, be cognizant of the deadlines for accepting or denying scholarships. These are different for renewing or new students. And this is important to keep in mind, especially if your family is looking at other types of scholarships or programs, because many do not allow any overlap. This information is also in the parent handbook, so you can always refer to it later. The advantages of using the Step Up Scholarship to pay for McKibben and Monte services is that McKibben and Monte is primarily a direct invoice provider, as Cindy mentioned earlier. That means we can go directly into the scholarship funds to receive payment. This can greatly minimize out-of-pocket costs for you. Families also can enjoy flexibility as they have the option to seek reimbursement if they wish from either the scholarship or their insurance company. Scholarship awards begin July 1st, meaning services after July 1st can be covered using scholarship funds. However, the method of payment will depend upon if funds are available in the scholarship. Families must wait until funds are available in their scholarship before reserving services for McKibben and Monte to directly invoice. Families also must wait to submit for reimbursement. The dates above are dates the state of Florida deposits funds into the main Step Up account. It then takes 2 to 3 weeks for Step Up to distribute those dollars to individual scholarships. So, for example, a new scholarship awardee will not see funds in their scholarship until mid to late September. There are times, depending upon frequency and type of therapy your child receives, that scholarship funds may dwindle. Because of this and because of the distribution schedule above, we collect a card to keep on file to ensure there are no disruptions in your child's therapy. This is a screenshot of an account from a parent's perspective. I just want to point out the difference between current funds available and program award amount. This causes a lot of confusion with families. The program award amount listed at the bottom is the total awarded for the scholarship year. Current funds available, in contrast, reflect the most recent distribution into the account minus any purchases made to date. The program award amount will be visible in your child's account immediately after the scholarship is awarded, but the current funds available section will be blank until funds are distributed into the account, starting in either mid-August or mid-September. Parents cannot make any choices either to make purchases or submit reimbursements in the scholarship until it shows funds available. It is worth stating once again that McKibben and Monte services are available to all students, regardless of whether they have a scholarship or not. McKibben and Monte is a comprehensive private therapy company that invoices at the end of each month of therapy services. It is our policy that families must pay within 7 days of receiving an invoice. We will directly invoice, or in other words, electronically pull funds from the scholarship once funds are available. However, we will need to charge a card on file in instances where scholarship funds are insufficient or unavailable to cover services. Awarded scholarships are funded on a rolling basis. Regardless of when the scholarship is approved, the award date will be July 1st, and scholarship funds can be used for services between July 1st and June 30th. So even if a family is applying for the scholarship after July into June, August, up to November, the award date will still be July 1st. Please be aware that funds at the beginning of the scholarship, as we keep mentioning, will not be available until somewhere between mid-August and late September. Because our policy is for payment within a week of receiving an invoice, families will likely need to be paying for services on a credit or debit card until funds become available in their scholarship account. They can then seek reimbursement for those out-of-pocket payments later once scholarship funds are available. And once funds are in a family's account, we can then begin directly pulling funds from the Step Up scholarship to cover services. We will provide more information on that once your scholarship is awarded. But with all this being said, we are all well aware how important it is to begin addressing our children's needs as soon as possible. Therefore, when a therapist recommends therapy, as Cindy discussed earlier, we encourage you to initiate therapy services immediately rather than wait for scholarship funds to be available. In addition, McKibben and Monte therapist schedules do fill up, and families that wait on scholarship funds risk a therapist not being available. Keep in mind that all services after July 1st are eligible for reimbursement. So here's that slide again, and take a picture if you didn't get a chance to earlier. But once again, we want to emphasize how many great resources are available to families at the Step Up for Students website. The helpline I use often. It's staffed by very friendly, helpful volunteers. They're always quick to answer the phone, and I really encourage parents to call that helpline first with any questions. I rarely have to wait very long before someone picks up. The parent handbook will always be your best resource. It is a thorough compilation that includes everything you need to know about eligibility and applying, deadlines, how to use the marketplace and seek reimbursement, what to do at the end of your child's scholarship, and much more. So really look through that handbook and refer to it often. The YouTube videos are quick, user-friendly tools offering little tutorials on applying, submitting for reimbursement, and finding services in the marketplace. So definitely check them out. And as always, we can be reached at our email, info@mckibbenandmonte.com. So we are going to end things here. Thank you for joining us this evening. We hope this helped clarify some aspects of the step-up process, and we look forward to working with your family. While we are not setting aside time for question and answer, please feel free to email us with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.